of things, over in your part of the world, California, right? So as things are starting to get a little bit normal again, how's it going for you down there?
Yeah, it's nice to be able to open up my gym back again. One of the things we were going through is obviously, all gyms are closed down. And now with as of the 15th, everything goes back to normal operation, especially for those that are vaccinated. They seem to have the leniency to do a little more things. But when I leave the gym, I go to another gym, life seems normal. I go out anywhere else, I'm like, oh, we're still wearing masks? Is this, we're still social? Okay, all right. So in some ways, it seems like things are normal, and then in a whole different way, things are still exactly
Right.
the same.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's a little nice, right? Did you have to kind of change things up too much while we were in the peak of things?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things I had to do is I had to create a home gym.
Mm.
The place we were living in before was just teeny tiny, and it was really just me kind of cramming. We live in the best part of town. There was a lot of drug violence and just drug addicts all over the place. And so it really didn't give us the freedom to even go to our park to be able to do workouts. So I fortunately we moved and I've been able to put mat space, put up different equipment so I can do all my cardio, even have training partners come and work in my own house to be able to do that. So I made huge adaptations because of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice to maybe have that luxury now, just to have it there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Like one of my main training partners is also a close family friend. And he'll just come up and I'm like, hey, do you mind? You want to work on some stuff? The same thing, like, hey, that thing you caught me in yesterday? Can you show me how to not do that? I'm like,
Right.
so it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So take some positives out of things, helped us adjust in certain ways and grow a little bit. So that's really cool. But as for this next fight, Liz, of course, got to talk about that coming up next week. Kana Watanabe, were you surprised though that you didn't get a title shot? Because that was something we've been talking about since you came into Bellator in the first place. So goes to Denise Kiholtz instead. Alima's not champ anymore. Were you just surprised by how everything's played out?
I was a little surprised when I saw that she was booked in July. This is a last minute phone call, and I'd seen that come out, and then I got the phone call not shortly after that. And I was like, oh man, how is she fighting somebody else, not me? But that's fine. But like I said when I came into Bellator, I will absolutely work through my ranks, and I in no way think that I deserve to get a title contention immediately off the bat. And if I have to clean out the division to get there, that's fine by me. I'll clean them out, get my paydays, get my time in, more reps into that cage, and in preparation to fight.
Yeah, make it a little bit undeniable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And, in your last fight, took on Vanessa Porto, who was a champion from Invicta, I think one of the most underappreciated maybe fighters in all of MMA, one of the best flyweights ever. What was it like getting to fight her, somebody with, equal, if not more experience than you? You guys are two of the most experienced fighters just in flyweight across the globe. That was a big one too. Did that feel maybe like a little bit of a title fight before a title fight?
Yeah, it really did. Being that she has more experience, I think I have like this would be my 21st fight, and she had 30 fights on
Mhm.
me. So it certainly was somebody that had. I was like, okay, this feels like I'm fighting for the belt without actually fighting the champion. And coming from a different organization, it doesn't take away from
Right.
her championship ability. So for me, it was honestly a good prep in anticipation of this fight being in contention for the next belt.
Yeah, and what have you made? Are you excited for? I know this fight's not going to have crowds just yet, but Bellator is getting back to that with next month. So, what's it been like navigating that? Has it just been whatever for you?
Yeah, in some aspects, it's weird just because I'm used to whether I'm in fight camp or not. I'm a full-time fighter. That's who I
Mhm.
am all year round. So I'm an athlete and I'm constantly in shape. So whether even when I've gone with training partners and helped them coach them for their fights, I still work out the whole time that I'm there. And so being in like that 2-day bubble, I'm like, wait, so I can't go downstairs and work out? I don't do that very well. So that's been kind of weird and not being able to have that. And we're recommended that we also don't work out in our room. So I'm like, I can't even do an in-room workout. Uh, my peace of mind, like one of the things that I do so I don't have jet lag, the
Right.
moment I arrive is I work out. Like that's the first thing. That's always what I do. And as a result, I never have jet lag. And so I get there, I'm like, you just want me to go to bed right now? No,
Doesn't
that's
work
not.
that way.
I'm just like, I'm gonna get a few reps in a day. That's just who I am. I work out multiple times a day. So that biggest hindrance is not having a real training room to do that has been the weirdest thing on trying to adapt how we do things. And
Right.
that's really the hardest part is just not being able to go down there, or when I have going downstairs, it's really cold. I'm like, oh, this is. I usually any room you go into when you're in a fight camp and you go there, fight week, all the rooms are super humid hot. I'm usually turning them down because it's too hot.
Yeah.
I've gotten there and I'm like, I can't turn up the temperature. That's weird.
Yeah.
So I've had to adapt to that, but it's still been really nice just to go there and be able to actually just relax and not have to focus on too many things outside of just picturing the fight and getting ready for that.
Yeah, I could see that. So yeah, definitely a lot to kind of maybe juggle and get used to. And then right about to go back to normal at least a little bit and maybe keep some of these things. But just as that's what it's like being a fighter, right? So and mentioned the Porto win right there, but before that had the win over DeAnna Bennett, which your first submission in a good while. And I mean, did that make it a little bit more satisfying to get the finish in that one?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I said coming into Bellator is I don't want to go to decision wins. And I certainly didn't anticipate facing somebody like Porto and being forced into that.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that fight, I was looking for the finish, and I thought I had it in the end. I didn't. So to be able to start that chapter with Bellator, keeping with my word and what I told them, and also just wanting to come into Bellator and making a huge splash, it was really satisfying because winning for me with the decision it's an opinion. You know what I mean? Some people can see it one way. When you tap somebody out or you TKO them or you knock them out, there's no doubts. That's a definitive answer of you defeated them. Going to decision, not so much. So it was really nice to go in there and know that I absolutely finished her and defeated her in that fight.
Right. And against somebody like Porto, who, as we said, incredible experience, going to be harder to finish somebody like her too, right? So, getting the win at all, you'll take it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then, of course, going against Kana now, who is undefeated, never been beaten. Of course, she had a draw, but, how much did you know about her going into this? Obviously, she's risen up to number 3 already. You're number 2 in the rankings. Yeah, what do you think about this matchup? Getting somebody like Kana, who very strong grappler in her own right with her judo base, going against your wrestling and all that. It's a fun one for you. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it is a fun one for me. When you have somebody that is an expert in their field, that to me is always a lot more fun to challenge because I want to see how I pair up against somebody that's great at something specifically, whether I can defeat them at their best or just match them side by side. I always like to see like, oh, okay, well, this person, it was a 10-year Muay Thai fighter. Cool. And I want to see how I do with stand-up, okay. So it's fun to be able to like, okay, this is going to be a challenge in those respects. And then also just have the opportunity to give her first loss is, of course, always a satisfying feel. But I try and study the top 10 and in every organization that I'm in and every weight class that I'm in. So I understand potentially at any point who I could be facing. So it doesn't really come as a surprise. So I'd already studied tape on her in anticipation that, oh, this is a matchup that could happen down the road. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. We've studied her. We know exactly about her. This is ready. I can take this in 4 weeks because I already know what to expect. And we've already put together a game plan for this particular opponent.
Right. And, where do you see kind of the biggest advantages maybe? Because I think that there are certain areas, obviously experience in MMA. She's coming from, a different rule sets over in Japan. They have, they judge the whole fights as a whole. They can have down strikes. So she's losing some weapons as she's starting with Bellator now. Just what would you say some of the biggest advantages are for you? Maybe ones that, aren't as obvious as I just mentioned.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is going to be my striking. I think that she does have the judo background, and judo and wrestling, you kind of see them as like being a good matchup and being able to compare who's more proficient at one easily defeats the other, so that wise, not necessarily the best thing, but striking wise, I definitely feel like that's a huge advantage I have over her. And so I'll be able to utilize that in this fight.
And do you think it's helped that you've, gone against some pretty good judokas in your day? Rhonda comes to mind, and I know that she's been asked about that in the comparison there, but there's not really anything you haven't seen at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then the other benefit is I actually have gone and done one-on-one sessions with Justin Flores, okay. Rhonda's coach. So, and I had done that months ago just in wanting to just grow myself. So that's going to help for this fight camp because some of the same things that we worked on with him, she does. So I was like, this is perfect. I know exactly how to use this. This is things that we started implementing into how we do everything.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how you can, utilize that next week. But speaking of, things that you've seen already, Liz, you've taken on both Valentina and Andrade have wins over both of them, and I bring that up because they just recently fought, and I thought that was a bit of a surprising outcome. Don't know if you saw the fight between them, but very dominant from Valentina. Just having fought both of them, I'm curious, what did you think of that fight?
Yeah, if there's the best way you can explain Valentina is it's like a pissing contest. She's like, okay, this is what you're good at. Let me show
Right.
you not actually that good at it. And I'm gonna piss all over your art. And that's basically what she did was with Andrade. It's like, this is what your specialty is. You held a record for most takedowns. Not anymore. I'm gonna change that in one fight with you in each round and make a point. And she just dominated her. And it's great to see her go out there and say something she's going to do and follow through on it. And I faced both opponents, and I just think that Valentina is just stacked up so much higher than other people. Andrade is a great person and a great fighter. Having faced her, I know how tough she is and how skilled she is. But compared to Valentina, I just don't think that there's a woman out there that can beat her.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? That's just all we gotta wait and see. But I mean, for you, Liz, maybe a tough question here, probably, but who would you say has been the toughest opponent in your career? Has it been Valentina, or has somebody else come to mind?
Yeah, I'd say it has to be Valentina. Absolutely. Yeah, because even the last time I faced her, I was in a point in my career where I was making changes,
Mhm.
and they won't fight. There's still some new things that I was learning that I was trying to implement my game that hadn't really dialed in yet, so I wasn't able to do what I needed to. And I certainly feel like when I faced her that I did a lot of things right, but there were definitely things I could have done better. And she by far has been the most difficult opponent I faced yet.
And what was it like going to, that was in Uruguay, right? Like a very unique place to go to. Uh, I mean, what was that experience like? Maybe it didn't have a factor into, training and all that stuff, but I don't hear about many people going to Uruguay and they had the event there. So what was that like?
But it was cool just because I know Gaston, and he's the ambassador for Uruguay, and that's where he's from. So he told me a lot of cool things to anticipate going there. So I was actually really excited. And my first fighting overseas was in Prague. And
Mhm.
so I was actually really looking forward to pre-COVID, like, oh, this is going to be a new thing. Like, I'll get to fight new countries all the time. This is amazing. So I was actually really excited about it and hoping that I'm like, oh, this will happen again. Like, I can make this a new thing where I
Not
get
so
to.
fast. Yeah, so hey, at least you got to go there at all, right? Before things really really happened. But in terms of other past opponents, Liz, Miesha Tate, she's coming back now, which I never say never with MMA retirements, right? But she's coming back. So what do you think about that? How do you think she's going to do? Marion Renault is going to be who she's getting welcomed by.
I think that that's going to be a difficult one. I felt like when Miesha Tate made the decision to retire, it was at the right timing for her. And I don't know what she's been doing in her career and in her life since then, other than having children to prepare. If it'd be one thing like, yeah, maybe I fight once a year and I stay active the entire year and I'm constantly training and evolving. So when you see me once a year, it's not for a lack of attempt and growth. To say that she's fighting again after years off, was she still training or was it just taking time off? So this isn't a sport that you can just be stagnant in and you can sit dormant. There are people that are constantly growing and trying to surpass you. So this would be a challenging fight for her. But if there's one thing I've seen from the men is the ones that retire and come back have been just destroying it and doing an amazing job. So maybe she learned some lessons in her time off and she's going to come in and dominate.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. Looks like she's training hard though, but yeah, Marion Renault, that's going to be her retirement fight too. So a little bit of extra motivation for both of them in unique ways. All right, Liz, I appreciate the time greatly. Looking very much forward to this fight next week, and I wish you all the best of luck, safe travels, and safe weight cut, all that good stuff. And I'll be tuning in. Thank you so much for the time. It was great getting to talk to you.
Thank you. Too.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you like this video and want to see more like it, give it a like and maybe subscribe if you haven't already. Until then, we'll see you next time.